Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started.
Former undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns is gearing up to enter his 10th WrestleMania main event this year. The 39-year-old will take on Seth Rollins and CM Punk in a triple threat match. All three superstars are well-rounded when they step foot inside the ring. They have had extended world title reigns in the past and have also defeated some of the biggest names in the industry. This makes it extremely difficult for fans to pick a clear winner. However, ahead of WrestleMania 41, WWE may have subtly confirmed the truth about Roman Reigns' future in the promotion. The Stamford-based company will host the 2025 Backlash Premium Live event after Mania on May 10. However, the OTC is not announced for the show. This seemingly confirms that Reigns may take time off after the show of shows and will not compete at Backlash. Furthermore, WWE recently released the first official poster of the Clash in Paris PLE, featuring top stars such as Cody Rhodes, John Cena, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Rhea Ripley, Jacob Fatu, and more. However, the undisputed tribal chief was not on the poster, indicating that the head of the table would miss that show as well. However, ahead of WrestleMania 41, WWE may have subtly confirmed the truth about Roman Reigns' future in the promotion. The Stamford-based company will host the 2025 Backlash Premium Live event after Mania on May 10. However, the OTC is not announced for the show. This seemingly confirms that Reigns may take time off after the show of shows and will not compete at Backlash. Furthermore, WWE recently released the first official poster of the Clash in Paris PLE, featuring top stars such as Cody Rhodes, John Cena, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Rhea Ripley, Jacob Fatu, and more. However, the undisputed tribal chief was not on the poster, indicating that the head of the table would miss that show as well. However, Roman Reigns is rumored to compete at the 2025 SummerSlam, as the biggest party of the summer is set to be a two-night event this year. It will take place on August 2nd and 3rd in New Jersey. Meanwhile, the Clash in Paris event will take place on August 31st in France. After compiling all the evidence, it seems that the original tribal chief will only compete at selective PLEs moving forward, continuing his part-time run. That said, the analysis above is merely speculative at this point. Roman Reigns might suffer a shocking betrayal at WWE WrestleMania 41. The triple threat bout featuring CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns is set to be spectacular, and things are bound to get chaotic. With three of the biggest superstars of the Stamford-based promotion battling inside the squared circle, it's almost impossible to predict a clear winner. Experts feel that Paul Heyman will play a key role in the outcome of the much-awaited Clash of Titans. The Triple H-led creative team laid the foundation when the Wiseman denied taking orders from his tribal chief and accepted to be in CM Punk's corner in Las Vegas to repay the favor he owed his best friend. Things got more interesting in the latest episode of Raw when Seth Rollins spared the 59-year-old after taking out CM Punk with his signature stomp and told the Wiseman that the veteran now owed him a favor, creating an interesting scenario. In a shocking turn of events, Paul Heyman could turn heel at Mania, betraying Reigns and Punk and joining forces with Seth, helping the Visionary win the match. The WWE Hall of Famer teaming up with the Architect is one of the most speculated conclusions to the triple threat bout. However, the above-mentioned angle is hypothetical, and it will be interesting to see how this saga ultimately unfolds at the show of shows. For over a decade, Roman Reigns has been the unshakable pillar of WWE, a man who rose from a controversial and anointed start of an undeniable generational talent. He became the face of the company, not just by corporate design, but by sheer force of evolution. From the big dog to the tribal chief, the transformation was nothing short of iconic. His record-breaking reign as undisputed WWE Universal Champion, the drama of the Bloodline saga, and his ability to hold the audience in the palm of his hand turned Reigns into more than a champion. He became the narrative center of professional wrestling. But now, it seems that WWE might have quietly confirmed what fans have been dreading for months: Roman Reigns' time at the top is nearing its end. Not with a bombastic announcement, not with fireworks or a tell-all interview, but through subtle choices in booking, production, and promotion that only the most attentive fans have started to piece together. And the picture they're painting is bittersweet. The first major sign came, curiously, not from Reigns himself, but from the noticeable shift in WWE's promotional materials. Posters for premium live events, once dominated by Reigns' steely gaze and signature gold glove, now feature the likes of Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Rhea Ripley, and even rising stars like Gunther and Braun Breaker. Reigns is either absent altogether or pushed to the background, a sharp contrast from the last several years where he was the undisputed centerpiece. Insiders have noted that WWE's marketing team has begun emphasizing a new era, using language like fresh faces leading the charge and ushering in the future of sports entertainment. While these phrases are typical in any transition period, the timing feels deliberate, almost like preparing the audience for life after Reigns' dominant presence. Then came the post-WrestleMania booking decisions, subtle, yet telling. Roman Reigns, after finally dropping the undisputed WWE Universal Championship to Cody Rhodes in a clash that felt like the culmination of years of layered storytelling, quietly receded from weekly television. No dramatic rematch announcement. No urgent revenge tour. He simply faded into the background. WWE commentary, always quick to hype his accolades, began referring to him in the past tense more often. Roman Reigns was the most dominant champion of the modern era, Michael Cole remarked during a recent SmackDown broadcast, a choice of words that did not go unnoticed. More intriguing still is the bloodline's fragmented state. Solo Sikoa, once Roman's loyal enforcer, has begun carving out his own path. Paul Heyman looks increasingly conflicted, as though torn between the legacy he helped build and the inevitable new order rising around him. Without Reigns to anchor the family drama, the bloodline feels less like a dominant force and more like an empire in quiet disarray. Some speculate this is by design, a storytelling mirror to real-life circumstances, reflecting that without its tribal chief, the bloodline can't hold its power. Backstage whispers add fuel to the fire. Reports from credible sources like Fightful and PW Insider suggest that Roman Reigns has been considering a reduced schedule for some time, with ambitions outside the squared circle calling his name. Hollywood has certainly noticed him. His brief but charismatic appearances in the Fast and Furious franchise and other projects hint at a growing portfolio. If John Cena's path is any indication, Reigns may be preparing for a similar transition, from full-time champion to part-time legend, then eventually to a mainstream star beyond WWE. Yet, it's not just about Roman's external ventures. Physically, too, the signs are there. Years of grueling matches, the responsibility of carrying an entire brand, and the weight of expectation have taken their toll. He's been more selective with his in-ring appearances, and his promos, once thunderous declarations of dominance, have lately carried a more reflective tone. "I've given everything to this," Reigns admitted during a recent backstage segment. But even a tribal chief has to look toward the horizon. The fans feel it too. Chants of "Thank you, Roman" have started to pepper live events, particularly in cities with deep wrestling roots. It's the kind of chant typically reserved for farewells, not ongoing reigns of terror. It's as if the WWE Universe, collectively, senses the end approaching and wants to show appreciation before the final curtain falls. To be clear, Roman Reigns is not done just yet. He remains a colossal presence, and WWE will undoubtedly continue to feature him in major storylines, perhaps building toward one final, monumental feud, maybe even a passing of the torch moment with someone like Solo Sikoa or Braun Breaker. However, the slow erosion of his omnipresence, the narrative breadcrumbs of legacy and transition, and WWE's clear focus on newer faces suggest that we are witnessing the twilight of an era. And what an era it has been. Reigns took on the near-impossible task of becoming the face of WWE during one of its most tumultuous times, through the pandemic, through roster overhauls, through shifting audience expectations. He turned skepticism into respect, booze into awe, and ultimately left an indelible mark on the industry. If WWE truly has subtly confirmed that Roman Reigns is winding down his full-time career, then fans are fortunate to have witnessed this chapter unfold in real time. The Bloodline Saga, the historic title reign, the transformation from heir apparent to undisputed tribal chief, it's a story for the ages. As WWE looks ahead to its next generation of stars, it does so standing on the shoulders of Roman Reigns' monumental legacy. Whether his future lies in Hollywood, part-time appearances, or surprise returns that ignite arenas, one thing is certain, Roman Reigns' shadow will loom large over WWE for years to come. And when that final moment arrives, when Reigns lays down his glove and acknowledges the next in line, the entire wrestling world will rise to its feet, not just in farewell, but in gratitude for a reign that redefined greatness. For years, Roman Reigns had stood tall as the undisputed leader of WWE's most powerful faction, the Bloodline. His reign was filled with dominance, manipulation, and masterful mind games. As the tribal chief, he had dispatched every challenger, every rebellion, every whisper of mutiny that dared to rise against him. From Cody Rhodes to Drew McIntyre, from Sami Zayn to even his own cousins, Reigns had found a way to bend them all to his will or break them entirely. But as WrestleMania 41 loomed over the horizon, there was an unshakable tension in the air. Something felt different. Beneath the surface of Roman's empire, cracks had begun to form. The storyline leading into WrestleMania 41 was one of destiny and legacy. Roman Reigns, still champion after an unprecedented reign, was set to headline yet another WrestleMania. His opponent, a returning Seth Rollins, the one man who knew Reigns better than anyone, the man who had once betrayed him in the Shield and now sought to finish the job on the grandest stage of them all. Yet, the real danger was not across the ring. It was much, much closer. The seeds of betrayal had been sown months earlier. Solo Sikoa, the enforcer of the bloodline, had grown increasingly restless. Tasked with carrying out Roman's ruthless commands, Solo had been the hammer of the group, striking down Roman's enemies without question. But lately, the weight of blind loyalty had begun to chip away at Solo's armor. He had watched as Roman berated his brothers, manipulated his family, and treated them like pawns on his chessboard. At first, Solo had convinced himself that it was all for the greater good of the bloodline. Roman was the head of the table. Roman provided for them all. But after Jey Uso's escape from Roman's grip, and Jimmy Uso's humiliating return under false pretenses of forgiveness, Solo couldn't ignore the gnawing truth: Roman Reigns wasn't a leader anymore. He was a tyrant. And so, beneath Roman's nose, a silent storm had been brewing. WrestleMania 41, Night 2. The main event. The lights inside the packed Allegiant Stadium were deafening. The pyro exploded, the crowd roared, and the stage was set for another Roman Reigns epic. He walked to the ring with his signature aura of invincibility, the championship belt gleaming across his shoulder, flanked by Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman. Opposite him stood Seth Rollins, draped in a dazzling, custom-made robe, his eyes burning with a decade of unfinished business. The match was brutal, a war of attrition that saw both men push their bodies to the brink. Reigns threw his Superman punches, speared Rollins through the barricade, and barked commands at Solo to interfere when necessary. Heyman at ringside was a nervous wreck, sensing that destiny might finally turn against his tribal chief. And then, it happened. As Roman prepared for a final spear, Rollins collapsed to his knees, exhausted and beaten. Roman smirked, circling his prey, raising his hands to declare his dominion over WWE once more. But Solo Sikoa didn't move. Roman barked at him, commanding Solo to hand him a chair, the same steel chair Roman had used to manipulate so many outcomes before. Solo, expressionless, stared at Roman. He tightened his grip on the chair. And hesitated. The hesitation was just long enough for the entire stadium to feel the shift in the atmosphere. Roman's eyes narrowed, a mixture of confusion and fury flashing across his face. "What are you doing, Solo?" Roman snarled. "Give me the chair." But Solo didn't budge. And then, to the shock of the 70,000 in attendance, Solo Sikoa lifted the chair high and blasted Roman Reigns across the back. The unmistakable crack of steel meeting flesh echoed through the stadium. Heyman's jaw dropped. The crowd erupted into a frenzy, torn between gasps and cheers. Roman collapsed to the mat, clutching his back in disbelief. Solo Sikoa had turned. The enforcer had become the rebel. Paul Heyman scrambled into the ring, pleading with Solo, tears streaming down his face, as if begging his own son to see reason. But Solo's face was stone cold. Without hesitation, he delivered a thunderous Samoan spike to Heyman, sending the wise man crumbling to the canvas. Seth Rollins, dazed but aware enough to seize the moment, pulled himself to his feet. He locked eyes with Solo, who gave a single, subtle nod, a passing of the torch, or perhaps a silent pact of mutual destruction. Rollins hit the curb stomp. 1, 2, 3. The bell rang, and history was made. Seth Rollins was the new undisputed WWE Universal Champion. But all eyes weren't on the new champion, they were on the fallen tribal chief and the man who had just dismantled the empire from within. Solo stood over Roman, chair in hand, breathing heavily. Years of repression, silent obedience, and buried rage had erupted in a single, defining moment. The once loyal enforcer had shattered the bloodline's foundation. As Seth Rollins celebrated, Solo stepped onto the middle rope, raising the steel chair high like a war trophy. The camera caught one final, chilling image before the broadcast faded to black: Roman Reigns, bloodied and broken, staring up at the man he had once called his weapon, now his greatest betrayer. The fallout. The betrayal would send shockwaves through the WWE Universe in the weeks to follow. Questions swirled: had Solo planned this all along? Was this the final nail in the coffin for the bloodline? Could Roman ever recover from such a public, humiliating collapse? One thing was certain: WrestleMania 41 would be remembered forever as the night Roman Reigns was betrayed by his own flesh and blood, not with a whisper, but with a thunderous crack of steel and the eruption of a rebellion no one saw coming. For the tribal chief, it was not just the loss of a title. It was the fall of an empire. And Solo Sikoa? He didn't just break free from Roman's shadow. He shattered it.